What's up, guys? Welcome on into my channel, Red Reviews. I'm Vincent Rojas, once again bringing you an awesome movie review. Today I will be reviewing The Flash, which is directly adapted from the Flashpoint comic and is directed by Andy Muschietti and stars Ezra Miller, Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck, Sasha Calle, Kiersey Clemons, and Michael Shannon. In this movie, Barry Allen goes back in time to save his mother from dying, which creates timeline-related issues that he must then solve, with the help of an alternate timeline version of himself, Michael Keaton's Batman, and Kara Zor-El as Supergirl. Now, I'm not going to get into all the controversy surrounding this movie, particularly around Ezra Miller. My idea is to do my best to bring you guys a completely unbiased movie review. So let's start off with the things I liked about this movie. The first thing that instantly jumps to mind is Michael Keaton's performance as the Batman. The long and short of it is that he's great, and it was great to see him slip back into the role as Batman. Keaton never seemed jaded or like he was just here for a paycheck during the movie like so many other legacy actors feel these days returning to movies to play past roles again. He felt like he genuinely wanted to return to play this character one last time, and he was great. I know that he's probably only in this movie in order to sell more tickets, which is why he was front and center in all the marketing, but I honestly don't really care about that. Part of me does wish that he was kept more hidden from all of the trailers and posters so that it would be a huge surprise when he appears in this movie, but I enjoyed his presence nonetheless. And yes, of course, Danny Elfman's amazing score for Batman is back, and it was incredibly nostalgic to see on the big screen, especially because that's the score that they used for the Lego Batman video game, which I played so much of when I was smaller, and that music was just ingrained in my brain, and so hearing it on the big screen was just awesome.
I'm Batman.
Moving on, Ezra Miller as the Flash was never my favorite character from the DCEU. It was always really awkward and weird, and I was initially unsure of how him being the lead in a solo movie would be. But the movie introduces an alternate version of Barry Allen, who's even more obnoxious and immature than our Barry, which forces our Barry to be the bigger person and mature, which I thought was just a brilliant idea. Another little thing I really liked was that there's a line in the film which retroactively canonizes Zack Snyder's Justice League, and that's just a really cool thing to have happened overall. Also, The Flash has some great cameos, which I won't spoil, but I'll just say it was pretty cool to see a bunch of people who haven't been on screen for years on screen again. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things I disliked about the movie as well. One of the more prevalent issues is that of the movie's pacing, no pun intended. The film overall suffers a good bit from these pacing issues, especially because it doesn't feel like it has much story to cover. So it seemed to me like the movie is forced to stretch out its plot a lot in order to achieve its 2.5-hour runtime. I usually measure how good a movie's pacing is by the extremely reliable metric of my own attention span. I feel I have a pretty good attention span, so if I find myself feeling bored during a big summer blockbuster action superhero movie, I'm gonna attribute it to the movie's pacing. The Flash's pacing does stagger quite a bit, and I found myself zoning out on more than one occasion. I also found The Flash's plot to be slightly confusing at times, especially regarding the ending and what it specifically means for the rest of the DCEU, or what's left of it. I also found the rules of the Speed Force concept to be a bit strange, and I recognize that that might just be me, but I wish that aspect was explained a bit better. Additionally, the CGI is definitely unfinished. It wasn't as noticeable as it has been in other recent superhero movies, but it was definitely jarring at a couple points during the film. The CGI was very Uncanny Valley-esque, especially when the Flash was moving at top speeds. I think that a little more time in the oven would have made the CGI substantially better. However, the CGI regarding the two Barry Allens existing in the same space together was incredible. It was so seamless, and I could not tell which Barry Allen was the real one, so maybe that's where all the budget for the CGI went. Another point of contention I've seen online is the use of the humor in this film. It has a ton of jokes. I have seen people who think this movie's really funny, and some who don't. My take is that it works at times, but at other times it feels like the movie's trying too hard to make me laugh, as opposed to the jokes occurring naturally, which detracts from the humor overall. The awkward humor and the jokes don't land for me most of the time, but I've got to admit there were a few good jokes in here. The villains were also extremely underutilized, to the point that the heroes really just need someone to punch around. I'm pretty sure none of these villains have more than 10 lines worth of dialogue, and I am not exaggerating when I say that. They are severely underused, and I think that building up even one of the villains to be a bigger threat throughout the movie would have been greatly appreciated and would have gone a long way in making the movie overall feel more fleshed out. But as it stands, the confrontations were very anticlimactic, mostly due to the fact that I didn't feel the threats to be big parts of the movie. A lot of the movie is just recruiting Michael Keaton's Batman and Supergirl, and there isn't much thought given to the villains, which is a bit sad to see since the movie could have been so much better with more time given to the villains. In terms of my parting thoughts, this isn't what the DCEU needs to go out on right now. Speaking of, it wasn't made clear just how this movie reboots the DCEU, as I mentioned before. As many viewers know, James Gunn recently took up the role of creative head at DC Studios, intending to reboot the DCEU completely after the release of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom this December. He had stated that he would do this with The Flash, which would reboot the DCEU. After watching the movie, it's still unclear to me in what way it was rebooted. It was unclear to me whether the new DCU under James Gunn will take place in the timeline after The Flash leaves off, or if it will take place in a different timeline entirely, in a different universe, since there are multiple universes under one multiverse. Additionally, there are still 2 movies left before Gunn's vision takes over. Those 2 movies are Blue Beetle and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Basically, are those movies going to take place before or after The Flash takes place? If they take place after The Flash does that mean that it will have to be rebooted again right before Gunn's vision takes over? I don't know, and it wasn't explained in the movie. I wish it was. The DCEU has never been a movie series too worried with its continuity, but this really bugged me as I left the theater. I wish this aspect was explained better. Overall, this movie left me unsatisfied, and I don't really see myself rewatching The Flash for fun, unless it's just to watch Michael Keaton as Batman, who is the saving grace of the movie for myself. Even though James Gunn and even Tom Cruise, the man himself, sung its high praises, it's my least favorite movie I've reviewed on this channel so far. I'm sorry for being such a downer, but unless you're some kind of DC movie super fan, I would skip out on watching The Flash, at least in theaters. If you're really excited for this movie, I would recommend waiting until it's on demand or on streaming to watch. It's not a bad movie, don't get me wrong. It's just very forgettable and middle of the road. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this review. I didn't really enjoy this movie, but if you watched it and you really liked it, more power to you. Thanks so much for watching my videos. I'm volunteering at camp today for 3 weeks, but I come home on the weekends, so maybe I'll post a video in an upcoming weekend, and maybe I won't. No promises. As always, guys, go have a nice day. What's left of it. Peace.